Alien symbiotes devour humans, evil CEOs try to take over the world, and a guy eats a live lobster. All this happens in Venom. The film begins with a space probe returning to Earth. It is carrying alien life forms and crashes. The only surviving astronaut is possessed by one of these alien beings. It attacks the ambulance it's being taken in and takes over the body of a paramedic. Uh-oh. This is not good. The next morning, we're introduced to Eddie Brock, a cool reporter who investigates stories around the world. We know he's cool because he's wearing a black leather jacket. Eddie's boss tasks him with interviewing Carlton Drake, the millionaire CEO of Life Foundation, the company responsible for the crashed rocket from the night before. He doesn't really have a twirly mustache, but he is cartoonishly evil. He spends the night with his fiancée, Anne, an attorney that is working a defense case for Life Foundation. Eddie complains about his job, wanting to write good stories about the people that deserve it, not corporations. In the middle of the night, Eddie finds an email on his wife's laptop that has details about a lawsuit against the CEO Drake, alleging the murder of 3 people in genetic tests. Is it weird that Eddie was snooping on his wife's computer in the middle of the night? Let's move on. The next day, Eddie interviews Drake, and instead of asking about the rockets, accuses him of being a murderer. That gets him kicked out. To make matters worse, Eddie gets fired for accusing Drake with no evidence. And even worse, Annie gets fired too. She decides to end their engagement, leaving him behind. She really should have used a password on that laptop. But Eddie was right. Drake secretly has the 3 alien symbiote samples and is experimenting with them. Meanwhile, the 4th symbiote sample murders and swaps bodies again. What's this alien up to? 6 months later, Drake has found that if 2 organisms are compatible, they can merge together. Poor Bunny. Eddie has been down on his luck, and the store he's in gets robbed. Eddie tries to meditate after drinking some beers, but can't because of the loud noise of his neighbor's music. Later, Drake's first experiment with a human subject goes horribly wrong, and the symbiote kills the patient. That night, Eddie returns to the store and meets Dora, one of the scientists, who warns Eddie that these human trials are killing innocent people. She wants him to expose the story. Eddie doesn't want to help. He instead walks by Anne's apartment where he runs into her and her new boyfriend. He's a doctor. Things are awkward. Eddie agrees to help Dora, so she sneaks them into the research facility, where they find a woman begging for help. Eddie breaks the door down, but she attacks him and passes the symbiote on to him. As he escapes, Eddie has gained superhuman abilities. Finally, an action scene. You almost forget this is a comic book movie. Afterwards, Eddie begins to sweat, grow ravenously hungry, and interrupts Annie and her new boyfriend at a restaurant. He then jumps into a lobster tank and eats a live lobster. This image is going to haunt me. Anne's boyfriend tests Eddie, and they discover there is a parasite living inside him. That has to be Venom. We're halfway through the movie and haven't seen him yet. Meanwhile, Dora confesses to sneaking into the lab with Eddie, angering Drake. He has a symbiote kill her and sends men to Eddie's house. Another action scene. The symbiote takes control of Eddie and helps him escape. Eddie rides away on his motorcycle. Of course he rides a motorcycle. That's how you know he's cool. Drake sends drones after him, but Eddie's symbiote continues to protect him, showing off his superhuman abilities, which mainly involve tentacles. Lots of tentacles. Ew! Eddie gets hit by a car, and right before he's captured, the symbiote completely takes over. Finally, we meet Venom. He bites the guy's head off and regenerates Eddie's wounds as he runs off. They finally talk face to face, and Venom reveals that he is one of the alien symbiotes taken from a nearby comet. He is seeking a planet where him and the other symbiotes can devour and take over the inhabitants. Venom demands that Eddie help him or else he die. There's not much of an option there. Eddie now hears Venom inside of his head, and all that alien thinks about is eating people. It drives Eddie crazy, but he refuses the hunger. What a hero. Venom helps Eddie break into his boss's office and leave behind the evidence of Drake's crimes. They bond on top of the building. Aw, it's sort of sweet, in that old, alien parasite takes over your body and becomes your best friend kind of way. Eddie takes the elevator down. This is not the smartest move, as there are a bunch of guards waiting for him. Venom takes them out in a really fun action scene. Kapow! Now it's a comic book movie. Meanwhile, the other alien symbiote infects Drake. It looks like Venom is going to have someone to fight. That showdown is coming soon. Anne finds Eddie after the fight and takes him to her boyfriend's office, where Dan tells them the Venom symbiote is slowly killing Eddie. They run the MRI machine at full blast, which makes a noise that disconnects the symbiote from Eddie and trap it in the room. Eddie storms out but gets captured by Drake's men, while Venom escapes through the air ducts and possesses the first organism it sees. A cute little puppy. Uh-oh. Drake interrogates Eddie, but now that he no longer has the symbiote, decides to have him killed. He makes a deal with his symbiote to go up in one of his rockets and bring more alien symbiotes back to Earth to take over the planet. That's a twirly mustache plan. Eddie is about to be killed, but is rescued by Venom in Anne's body. They kiss, and Venom transfers back into Eddie. I really don't know how to feel about this. Deeply uncomfortable comes to mind. Knowing Drake's plan to bring more symbiotes to Earth, Venom agrees to help Eddie stop them. Venom has grown to like this planet and his relationship with Eddie. Aw, they're best friends. Meanwhile, Drake and his symbiote, which is named Riot, start the rocket launch sequence and then murder all of the engineers. It's not the smartest plan. Eddie and Venom arrive and they have a big fight. Venom versus Riot. You can tell them apart because Riot is slightly more gray, obviously. Fun comic book action. Later, both symbiotes get removed by loud noises. It's Eddie versus Drake. Not quite as fun. Drake bonds back with Riot and stabs Eddie through the chest. He nearly bleeds out, but Venom returns and heals themselves. The spaceship takes off, but Venom destroys it, blowing up Drake and his symbiote. He then sacrifices himself to save Eddie. How heroic, but also sad. We now find Anne and Eddie have both gotten their jobs back. That's very convenient. They discuss the Venom kiss they shared. It's still weird. Later, it turns out Venom is alive after all and remains inside Eddie. They make a deal that Venom is allowed to eat only bad people. When the convenience store is robbed again, Eddie lets Venom chomp away. Oh wait, can't forget about the end credits scene. Eddie interviews a serial killer who plans on killing everyone. It sounds like there will be some carnage. Thanks for watching. What movie do you want to see animated next?